the happiest thing about being retired is being able to acknowledge who I am. Don't ask, don't tell was great for us because at least nobody could ask us any longer. The hardest thing sometimes was with my soldiers when, one of my subordinate commanders wanted to kick somebody out for being gay, and I, as the court-martial convening authority, had that approval authority, and it was a moral dilemma for me, because at that point under Don't Ask, Don't Tell, they could get an honorable discharge, and so I would have to be very careful how I questioned them, because I couldn't expose myself, even though it was pretty obvious that the colonel had L tattooed on her forehead,
So, if they acknowledge themselves as being
discharged.
gay, so the crime was acknowledging.
After Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Prior to that, the crime was being caught, or anybody reporting, and then they would do an investigation. So they were always investigating the lesbians and gays. When I went through training at Fort McClellan, the men that were there as our instructors to teach us orienteering and all the ranger stuff, which of course I got into and none of the other women really did, and I think it's just how I'm wired, to be honest. It was a hardship assignment because it was such a, because of all the women that were there, and most of them were lesbians, even though, it was just an unspoken thing, but there were always all these investigations going on. What's very interesting is all our friends get investigated. Ask me if JC or I were ever investigated, and I will tell you we never were. And yet, when we both had security clearances that gave us access to even presidential stuff, okay, we'll leave it at that. And because there's all kinds of security clearances, and it's based on what you have a need to know. So in those security clearances, it came out. But there's this rule, I don't know if it's a rule or law, if JC was alive she could answer the question for you because she was in the intelligence corps, where they can't ask lifestyle questions. Okay, so they can't ask, so even if it comes out, so they might interview all of our neighbors, but if our neighbors have never witnessed us kissing or holding hands, I'm in command, and she's had pneumonia 4 times that year. So anyhow, we decided that it's better for her to have the biopsy without me and have me there for the results. So I'm there for the results, then we go and get the second opinion. Only Johns Hopkins said, you need to go to Inova Fairfax, which was like 15 minutes from our house. There's a doctor there doing a study on IPF, idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. We go to see him, but unfortunately Walter Reed had done the biopsy, and so she couldn't get into the study because they hadn't done the biopsy, and you know how that stuff goes. But he said, I can also do a transplant on you. But she didn't even want to talk about that because that really meant she didn't have much time. So now, this is now July. So we fast forward to the end of November, I'm home from Germany, and I said, we got to go over and see Dr. Nathan, let's just go. So we went over to see Dr. Nathan, and unbeknownst to me, Dr. Nathan had a gay brother. So he knew not to ask me the question about my relationship, but he knew that I would take care of her. So the normal process, so I said, I really want to see if she can qualify. He says, well, it normally takes about 6 months to go through the whole process. I said, I got to be in Arizona on the 2nd of January. Thanksgiving is next week. And he says, we'll see what we can do. So he scheduled us for, it was after Thanksgiving, yeah, because she'd organized a family reunion for my family. So this first week of December. So the second week of December, we go over to Inova Fairfax, and we go through this whole battery of interviews. I go in to see the psychiatrist, and you'll laugh because of this study, and they said, so what is your relationship to her? Because we need to make sure she has someone who can be her medical advocate, make her decisions, keep track of her medications. And I mean, 5 days, we go through this whole battery of tests, and I explain to the psychiatrist, don't ask, don't tell. And so I say, I will take care of it, but we can't discuss it. And so, because if I had acknowledged to them that we had a lesbian relationship, I would have been kicked out of the Army. She would have been kicked out because she was getting ready to be met. We would have lost all of our pension and everything, which just isn't right.